Part 2. Yeah, sorry about that. I honestly did not think I would be able to talk this much about this series, but I suppose that is how much I love, death, robots. So definitely go check it out. Like I said, I'm gonna be sticking with my random spoilers peppered throughout. So especially since these are my favorite 6. These are my top 6 for the entire series. For sure, if you care about spoilers at all, I still think you can enjoy these with them being spoiled. And I think maybe at least for me, consuming this type of content, when I consume this type of content, it's to kind of dip my toe into a narrative. So I still feel like if you do get spoiled, you can still appreciate these. But I know some people don't like being spoiled, but then they let themselves spoil it anyway. So for those people, whoever you might be, just go watch the series. Go watch the series. Go on. At least watch these. Pause the video. Go watch these 6. This video should not be as long as the last one. Hopefully, maybe not. I probably have a little bit more to talk about these per one, but I don't think that'll add up to 55 freaking minutes. Alright, so number 6. 6 divided by 3 is 3. Robots. 3 robots. Number 6 is 3 robots. We got 3 robots milling about in a post-apocalyptic cityscape. I thoroughly enjoyed this one. It was definitely one of the early, really funny ones that I found quite amusing. The general premise is exactly as I said. You've got 3 robots of differing designs, kind of meandering about through sort of a post-apocalyptic. I want to say it's confirmed to be New York City, but could be kind of interchangeable for any city. I think it's New York City though. Pretty heavily New York City inspired, I want to say. But yeah, so they're milling about, and this reminded me. If you liked this episode, I would really recommend a webcomic called 9 Planets Without Intelligent Life. Very similar premise, but more galaxy wide. It followed 2 robots and these 2 other acquaintance robots of theirs. These 4 kind of friends over time. It starts with 2, but it ends up becoming a group. They sort of travel from planet to planet, going from the closest planet to the sun. Is it Venus? It's not. It's Venus and Mercury. Oh my god. My astronomy teacher is going to kill me with gamma rays. But yeah, they go from closest planet to the sun out to Pluto. Technically not a planet. I think it actually, funnily enough, it got declared not a planet while the comic was ongoing. So that was a bit of a yikes. Oh no. Your premise has been kneecapped by scientific reclassification. But anyway, the idea is that I think what this short in particular, what 3 robots tries to do, and I think what it actually does pretty well, is it lets the creators, the writers and animators sort of explore aspects of human culture from an outsider's perspective, a very cold and clinical sort of viewpoint on the particular issue. I think the reason why I would and I really did enjoy it. The reason I would recommend 9 Planets Without Intelligent Life a little bit more even is because I think it explores a lot of the similar themes to a much greater degree, because you have each planet sort of represents a particular facet of life. Like Mars is where all of, appropriately enough, like the war bots have been assembled. So it's in a constant state of like forever war. And I think like Neptune or Uranus is where all the economic bots have like found themselves like trapped at. So all of the different planets end up like representing like these very key elements of like humanity, and you have these particular robots sort of traveling through, exploring these planets and exploring these like facets of humanity from this similarly clinical kind of like detached perspective. So that general idea of like having the robots sort of passively observe like their former creators, their lost like parents. It's an interesting premise, and it's one I always find fun. If you like this short, firmly recommend the webcomic again, 9 Planets Without Intelligent Life. I would recommend tracking that down. The ending had a fun little twist. It turned out like not only was it global warming that killed mankind, but it was also the sentient cats that we made. They all murdered us. Maybe. It was definitely pretty heavily implied that they probably all killed us. We should have never gave them thumbs. It was a bad move. It was a bad move indeed. All right. Number 5. We've got the short Beyond the Aquila Rift, which is one of the, I want to say, last realistic looking ones. There's one more above it, but this one's definitely like the last one that's like entirely realistic. The story pretty like I feel like this particular story is gonna have a lot of like, oh my god, what did the ending mean? What were they trapped in the gooey matrix? The premise of Aquila Rift is you've got like a space crew. They send themselves like through like this sort of navigational like warp drive mesh type thing. Some math goes wrong and they end up going way off course, hundreds of thousands of light years off course. And he happens to, like, the captain of the ship happens to run into like an old flame on this particular like ship. And so she starts talking, they make love. Basically it's like she starts kind of breaking it to him like slowly, like how serious the situation actually is, and it quickly turns out that this woman is not actually his ex. And they're actually trapped on this large sort of organic vessel. I actually wrote down, I'm gonna scooch off camera here real quick to put on my prescription glasses and read Zdzislaw Beksinski. Well, there's a Polish author who I believe got stabbed to death, like right after his child and wife died tragically. But he drew, appropriately enough, some rather horrific and very organic artwork. And it was like, there's this one particular piece, I think it's called like Red Chapel, or it looks like basically like sort of a church composed entirely out of like veins. The kind of the art direction for what the creature that they found themselves like sort of trapped within, or at least like seemingly trapped within, but like actually arguably like rescued by this strange alien being. They're in this sort of fleshy web that's very reminiscent of Zdzislaw. Yeah. That particular Polish author, who I'll probably like pop a little Yeah. Hopefully that doesn't get taken down. That looks good. I'm actually probably gonna get that picture like hung up on the wall one day. One day, gonna get a big print of that because I really like his style. He's got some good artwork. I would recommend if you like this one. Speaking of recommendations, if you like this particular short, I would recommend taking a long and thorough peruse of all of his artwork. It's thoroughly good. So anyway, the crew, which I forget the ship name, but the crew that passed the Aquila Rift, that ended up beyond the Aquila Rift, they have launched themselves so far off course that they have been rescued by this sort of like very organic, very mysterious like alien entity that's basically just trying to kind of keep them alive and sort of bond with them. That's the general vibe that I get in terms of like the narrative. And like I really love the designs. I feel like a lot of people though are going to kind of like leave it at that, basically just say like, oh, he was trapped. Hold on. Okay. Had to check if I was recording. Wouldn't want to get this far without without recording, right? That would have been rough. This episode part 2 brought to you by Frog Water. Post midnight Frog Water. Woo. All right, so shout out to the YouTube channel Folding Ideas for their video on Annihilation for this particular train of thought that I'm about to kind of re-espouse. The interpretation a lot of people are going to get, like the direction a lot of people are going to take is just purely like in narrative, literal. They're going to say like, oh, what was the weird twist? It's like, it turns out that they were actually in the alien matrix. And that's all they're going to take from this. And I think that's underselling like some of the deeper meaning behind this particular piece. Because, okay, like in narrative, okay, why has the alien taken the form of the like an old flame, other than to have like probably one of the more hardcore sex scenes in the entire series, which fucking that creepy spider alien, that might have been cool. Gonna probably see artwork of that one day. Don't want to post that there. Zap. But why did the alien entity turn into a creepy... Or no, not a creepy. Why did the alien entity kind of introduce itself to this person as his old flame? Like, one would say, in narrative, it's to make the bonding experience less stressful, like get like more like close to him. But like I want you to think about, and like this is what I tend to like think about in this particular piece. Like what does it mean for someone's old flame to be represented as this like sort of horrific alien construct? Like for me, what I think this is someone think about them like in a relationship. Think about like the two, like the captain of the ship and like the woman in like a relationship. Like what does like her being this kind of like abstract like terror that still nevertheless cares about the protagonist, like what does that mean? I think like what that like gets at is that the relationship that they had didn't work because there were like things about her that truly like horrified him. Like that's like the general idea I get from this, is that like the people you're like intimate with suddenly like reveal themselves to you, and in that revelation you find like yourself like in shock, in horror, and even in denial. and that brings you like back into like the fantasy of like maintaining like the relationship like as it is, and trying to like almost conceal that part of the relationship that like is there. And even though like like in that deeper, like more frightening level that person still cares for you, that element of their personality is still nevertheless like terrifying. So yeah, that's kind of the vibe and the feel that I get from this particular Beyond the Aquila Rift. And so because that particular theme, like just thinking about like what that sort of revelation, what that like revelation means in the abstract for a relationship, or in relation to a relationship, that particular discussion and concept, like I find like really fascinating, and actually like I'm really curious on this particular point, like how like crazy that might sound, because I'd definitely be interested in opinions on whether or not any of you guys like see what I'm getting at and think it's like a total waste, or I might be onto something. I don't know. Watch it, like especially with that short. Watch it with that in mind if you haven't seen it already, or maybe watch it again with like that in mind, with the idea of this is like an old flame being revealed to be more than meets the eye, and then that layer of that artifice being like removed and revealed for what she truly is, being then like reapplied and like erased, because it's kept vague in the narrative whether I guess it's kind of implied that the creature did wipe his mind, but like you could almost say that he like allowed it to happen, because I can't like his reaction to it and like his physical disheveled state in this like sort of real world was much worse than like the fantasy world that she implemented to, which kind of gets into a bit more of like the Matrix parallel with a Cypher wanting to sort of get back into that fantasy world. I don't think like I do think the creature is the one that like maybe forced him, which I mean you could maybe into it, since it is like probably like a relationship parable. You could intuit that's to some degree being like related to like gaslighting, perhaps. I don't know. There's a lot in particular on this one, I think, to dig into, which I would probably want to. I probably want to give this one another rewatch, because this one's one of the ones. This is one of the last ones on the list that I've only watched once. These last four I had to rewatch at least twice. One of them 3 times before I ended up ranking them as such. So without further ado, the top 4. Number 4 is When the Yogurt Took Over. This one's a lot of fun. I really like this particular style. Very cartoony, very dramatic, very short. This one's literally like 5 minutes. You could probably watch this one. You could watch this one 10 times in the time it took you to watch the first part of this. But do watch this review. I like this review. This review's been fun so far. And When the Yogurt Took Over is also fun. So go watch it too. Go watch it right now. Go watch it again right now, because it's adorable. And I feel like this one in particular is a very, very obvious, like, sort of cartoonish version of kind of like an AI, or like, I mean, in a lot of ways, it is literally an artificial intelligence, because it is grown in a lab. It's just not a traditional robotic artificial intelligence. And I think it does kind of touch on to a very real fear of, will, like, even if like the things we create like don't kill us, they can in some way surpass us in a manner that is like thoroughly frightening. Like I honestly think the ending to this one is definitely one of the more haunting ones, in spite of not a lot of like terrible things actually happening by the end. It's really just the yogurt that we made sentient goes off into space and starts to colonize the universe and leaves humanity behind on Earth. And we're just kind of left under the rule of our benevolent yogurt dairy product overlords. I say nothing bad happened, but there's like literally implied baby eating in this one. Again, they're all very edgy, and so this one it's the same. Although it's like kind of played up for laughs. There's a really good scene where it's like you've got like kind of a disheveled like hobo type guy like fishing out like a literal cooked baby out of a barrel of toxic waste, getting ready to eat it, and then like it hard cuts to Ohio, which is the state that has been given over to the sapient yogurt in this short. And it's like a woman kind of like just nuzzling her baby saying, "Oh, I'm gonna eat your toes," like right after you see like a shot of a man literally about to eat a baby's toes. So yeah, that bit, the hilarious little jump cut. I quite like that one. That one's a lot of fun. When the Yogurt Took Over, great fun. Solid number 4 pick. I think now we are thoroughly at the peak of the 8 out of 10 level. This is like past this we're getting into like, you guys have got to watch these particular 3. Please watch these 3. And with that, number 3 is Ice Age. Ice Age. There we go. So Ice Age is that, like I mentioned in the first part, that this one, like that one of the realistic ones was cheating, and that's because they use actual live action footage. They do a kind of a Who Framed Roger Rabbit style blend of CGI and live action footage. Really nice. This one's like a cute little story. New couple moves into an apartment. They just happen to find in the old freezer that was left in the apartment from like who knows how long. They find it happens to play host to a rapidly evolving copy of human civilization driving super speed through all of the different ages. And I swear I really dig the idea of just like observing like how briefly like how we've like been on this particular planet, like how like short and recent human civilization is, just kind of like compacting that in to like showcase it, because you hear a lot said of like this is just like the faintest like sliver of time, like this last like 6 to 10,000 years of like civilization and culture. This is just such a sliver of time from like the totality of the age of the universe, and to kind of see that play out like in fast forward kind of helps further hammer that point home. But that's all well and good, but like really the reason that this is on my top favorite is this is basically like gives me a glimpse into my dream game. And it's even in like the right perspective and everything, because I would greatly desire to, like, using like an augmented reality headset, play a game of like Civilization meets like Spore meets like City Skylines or SimCity, just through the time. Basically, I want the game that Spore was supposed to be, and this short, Ice Age, number 3 on the 3 out of 18 for me, gave me another glimpse into what I wanted Spore to be all those ages ago. So for that it bumps it way up in the rankings, honestly, because anytime I can get like another, even the briefest of glimpses into that dream game of a Civilization style like city builder that takes you all the way through like the entire history of mankind. Ooh. Good stuff. Good stuff indeed. Speaking of good stuff. Number 2. Boop. This one's got a lot of titty. The Witness. Very nice, kind of reminiscent of Memento, or I'm trying to think of another good one. Triangle. If anyone's seen Triangle or Time Crimes, which I guess if you've seen The Witness, this is kind of spoilers for those two films too. But those I don't think those two films do it quite as good as this does it, and they definitely don't do it with as much like of a freaking gut punch as this one does it. This is probably the most like raunchy and heaviest hitting of the entire series for me, in terms of like just edgy, in your face like impact. Like a lot of the other ones, they had like their gore, they had their sex, but like for this one, there's just something about the style. It felt so like detached and yet realistic. Like it felt like it very much straddled the line. It was very reminiscent actually of Into the Spider-Verse in terms of animation. There were a lot of sound effects that were like popping off of like objects and stuff. Like you would see doors or cars, like car doors like clank, and like the little word like clank would like actually pop up. Stuff like that. The art, like the actual texture work was very it almost had like a paper quality to it. It felt like flat, but very, very physically there. Like the texture work on like the guy's jacket is coming to mind. It like flowed like very realistically, but the texture itself was like somewhat minimalistic. So there's like this kind of really bizarre clash going on that I'm not even sure why. Like this one's very much one that the style is the biggest draw for me on this one. And I am totally like unabashed in saying that this one visually is like the one that I like probably the most. There were some parts that made me laugh. Didn't cry. It wasn't that sad. I mean, it was tragic, but come on. It was just 10 minutes. You can't have that much pathos in 10 minutes. That would be crazy. Although maybe you'll cry. Probably not. It kind of has like a bit of a twisty ending. It's sort of like an expanded time loop sort of deal. Maybe reminiscent somewhat of ARQ, if you've seen that, possibly. But yeah, I would highly recommend Witness. There's like some parts where they transition from 3D to 2D to sort of further emphasize emotions, and those little bits I just absolutely loved. Like that kind of it. Again, this one had a lot of punch and a lot of energy. Really enjoyed it. Firm recommendation. This one, like this and Ice Age, both 9s out of 10s. 9 out of 10s. That takes us to our final one. Zima Blue. I'm not actually sure like where to begin with this one, because I think this one I've rewatched twice now, and I feel like I haven't gotten everything out of it that I want to get out of it. This one's the one that I like most want to rewatch with other people to kind of bounce ideas off. For me, just the idea, because I'm a fairly creative person. I'm crazy enough to dress up as a wizard to do a review for a series I like. That's creative, right? Anyway, the like the idea of an artist like using the art to so thoroughly dig into themselves that they become part of the art, I feel like that's a theme that very heavily resonates with me, and to see it portrayed in such like a total way was really a treat for me. Like this one, I think more than any of the stories and shorts, like I believe really had an impact. The story to Zima Blue, it follows like this artist who, like, basically this it cold opens on like a large kind of blue rectangle, which becomes like this highly thematically relevant symbol throughout the short, which like immediately perks. Like, it literally is in your face with the symbology right off the bat, and you do not notice until your second watch through when it cold opens on a Zima Blue rectangle that is being like cut through by the speederboat of the protagonist, which is this woman journalist going in for like an interview. She starts telling the story of Zima, this renowned artist who got to start in portraiture, couldn't quite feel like that, like that was what like, it didn't feel like it was like meeting his artistic like needs, his desires. So he decided to expand into mural work, specifically mural work of like space, of the stars. And you get this shot, which if you've seen the short, you'll know later that, like, how kind of important this is. You get this shot of like the artist Zima on this large kind of raised like sort of pedestal thing, kind of strafing left to right, doing like working on the mural, and it's mimicking like that sort of just single sort of horizontal kind of circle that he would later strafe and once strafed long ago. So it's still, you can already, like, even then, like, see sort of like echoes of like both the past and the future of this narrative kind of like rising up to the surface, like in his construction of this mural. And so little touches like that really have me like wanting to go back, like even like after I record like this next, like this video, I want to go back and like watch this one again. That's how much I really enjoyed this particular short, which, like, again, I think like I'll give like another spoiler warning on this one. I might have already spoiled it already, who knows. Go watch this one. If you're gonna watch one, it's 10 minutes. You could have already watched it by now. Go for the love of all that is good and well animated. Go watch this short. Go watch Zima Blue. So anyway, you follow this narrative. He's doing these, like, Zima is shown doing these large portraits of space. But even that's not enough for him. These murals tower. These murals are like triumphant and massive. They're like 2, 3, 4 stories tall. Still not enough. Still not enough for him. So he decides to implement something like deep within his soul. And in like the center of these like pieces now, there comes this like kind of blue rectangle, this Zima Blue, they call it, this particular color. This Zima Blue rectangle like starts to rise up from the space. Like he's figured out like his theme, and he starts to like expand on this blue rectangle, like it turns into a circle, triangle, and it expands until it takes the entire canvas up. But even that's not enough. So he enters what is referred to by the protagonist as his blue period, where he constructs entirely blue murals of increasing size. We're talking like larger than skyscrapers. We're talking this man manages to paint one of the largest rings on Jupiter that color blue. This is like the absolute like apex of this crazy tyrant artist's installation work. He manages to paint Jupiter blue partly. Crazy big projects, like absolutely insane. Like galaxy redefining size wise. And such is like the will and the focus of like this artist to get to what he wants, right? Still not enough. So she arrives, talks about how like he got some cybernetic surgery or something like that. This is actually the one weakness, because she talks about how he got like experimental cybernetic surgery, and then like a minute later he starts talking and he takes over, and he introduces himself and talks with her, and he starts speaking of like a narrative. He starts speaking about how he like was once a pool skimmer, like the little robot in a pool that kind of runs along the side of the wall, scrubs the tiles, scrubs the bottom, keeps things clean. And he was tinkered with and upgraded, and over the years became more and more sapient, more and more self-aware, and slowly kind of forgot like that kind of ancient part of him. But over time it began to kind of like crop back up, and so he takes her to this place on the top of like his large kind of castle, and he has meticulously tracked down, had the pool that he used to clean when he was once a pool skimmer dug up and reassembled at his castle. And he is ready for like this to be like his final art piece. And so he invites a whole bunch of viewers. Everyone's watching. Everyone's in attendance. And you get you get Zima leaping into the water, and slowly like this like tyrant of a giant man kind of unravels into this sort of like newborn original form of himself. He reverts back into this like pool skimmer state, and just begins to clean the pool that he began cleaning to begin with. And you end on the like the woman at the beginning, the journalist, turns away terrified, and I think there's something you could probably read into that about like creative individuals being very difficult to form relationships with because of how totally they can perhaps devote themselves into their passions, but more than that, specifically focused on like the relationship between like Zima and his art, and like probably there's probably even more to like relate into the relationship, because like basically I mentioned the opening frame has, you've got like the Zima blue background being cut through the water from the left frame to the right by the boat that the hoverboat thing that the journalist is riding on. At the very end, you end up with I don't know if the camera's backwards or not, What direction is left anyway? Okay, so anyway, basically at the very end of the film, you have Zima, the pool skimmer Zima at the very final frame, cutting from the right to the left, like retreading the direct, like the opposite direction that the journalist came from, over like another shot that is like just a full Zima blue rectangle. And so there's so much you can read into that about how like a lot of creativity is kind of delving into this like personal primal state, and like the idea that you are sort of constructed and built up by your past, and that on some level perhaps like by like delving into your subconscious, what you're doing is like sort of reaching further and further like back into like that childhood, that like creativity, something to that effect. There's again like this one I need to watch more. I want to watch this one more because I do feel like there's more that I can get out of it. Because again, this one I think really had like an impact on me more than any of the other ones. And honestly, it's probably the number one reason why I'm making this entire 2-part review series, because I really want everyone like making it this far to go watch, at the very least, Zima Blue. Like, I think it's still impactful, like, without the spoilers. I think there's a lot going on visually, narratively, like, emotionally. It's a good short. The animation style, it's simple. It's not, like, messy. It's definitely not, like, in your face. So the aesthetics, like, the aesthetic choices, like, really shine through. Like, just... It's such a good shade of blue too. Like I don't like they picked such a good shade of blue to like emphasize for that entire short. Like the only little like just tiny complaint that I've got about this short is her sort of story about him going and getting like cybernetic stuff like grafted on, so to make the twist more interesting. I mean, it did have some interesting shots, like I will say that there were some really cool shots of him sort of exploring the cosmos in his indestructible body, like just walking through lava, or like he was like meditating on like the ring of Saturn, and it was like panning back, and it was like really, really nice, like very, very like just over the top progressive rock type like camera shots and stuff. Very, very nice visuals, but it felt kind of cheap because like that was literally just a setup for the twist that like, oh, he was a robot all along. I don't really know if it was necessary for that. I feel like having him be such an obscure figure that like the fact that he was a cyborg like somehow eluded the press to a degree. I feel like that could have been like a more interesting way to play it, and a more interesting way to like play up the twist. But then you lose those really nice shots of him meditating on Saturn or the Saturn's rings, and of him like stepping into lava and stuff like that. Like basically like very clearly like representing like the depths you go to like really kind of dwell on like what it is you're making, what it is you're creating, like with any sort of artistic piece. But yeah, so Zima Blue. I could probably gush about this one for quite a while. Like I liked just about everything about it. Like literally the one nitpick I had is like so full of like asterisks. Like it's like, well, this nitpick is there, but like all these little bits that like only are possible because of the thing that I'm nitpicking on override that nitpick. It's such a non-issue that this one I might make it a 10 out of 10. I think I'm going to stick with a 9 out of 10 for now, but I think if I rewatch this another 1 or 2 times, I think I might end up bumping this one up to a 10 out of 10. But so yeah. that's Zima Blue, and that is all 18 episodes of Love, Death, and Robots. Published on Netflix. They're all there to go watch. They're all under 18 minutes, appropriately. Really compelling series. I think it's again. I touched on this in the first part. I think this is a sign of things to come. Like, we have finally gotten a serious adult series, an adult animated series with a very compelling style, or a very compelling set of styles. Some of them are very dramatic. Some of them are very like horrific. There are genres here that have not been animated this well in the West in possibly like ever. Like, I'm really like, to my like mind, I can't even like think of anything to like compare like Zima Blue to. Ice Age was like a glorious trip, and I can't wait to play the video game adaptation. Freaking When the Yogurt Took Over was adorable. Beyond the Aquila Rift was like, it felt like a really cool sequel to the Animatrix. Three Robots was it almost felt like a nice little send-up to the webcomic I was talking about, 9 Planets Without Intelligent Life. The Witness, really punchy, really gut punchy. All of these like top 6, thoroughly fascinating. Like even some of the like the lower ones, like Fish Night, I loved it. I love all of these. Like Secret War, like super fun. It was super fun to just see like this kind of weird sort of pulpy horror fiction just be realized. And then again, like I dwelled on those like 2 shots that were like super heavy, like blizzard weather, with like them struggling to like fight the horse and like make it through the blizzard. Ooh, like those scenes are gonna stick with me, like at least until I get Alzheimer's. Even like the first one, like Sunny's Edge, 14. There was like a lot of good about that one. Like, that was a really interesting fight scene. Like the whole sequence. I'm basically just going backwards. Going backwards. Fuck it. Watch Shapeshifters even. I don't care. I would recommend watching them in like the order that I reviewed them, so it's like worst to best. But hey, you can watch them in whatever order you want. I kind of just picked and chose at random because I had like a friend of mine was like showing them to me online, so I kind of ended up just kind of bouncing around a whole bunch, and that was fun. That was fun. You can do that with an anthology series. You don't have to start at the beginning. You can just kind of meander to whichever one kind of catches your eye, and sometimes you'll be surprised, and sometimes you will be not so surprised, but you won't be totally turned off. And then sometimes you'll find possibly like your newest freaking favorite thing of all time. But yeah. Just when I think I'm out, man. Just when I think I'm about to unsubscribe to Netflix, they drag me back in. First it was Russian Doll. Now it's this. I feel like every month they like just manage to like scrape by. It's like I'm gonna pull out. As a writer, I'm running low on money because amateur writers do not make that much money. So Netflix subscriptions like actually become like a bit of a financial burden, like ever so slightly. So they keep me engaged. They keep me there just enough. And like if they keep churning out stuff with Zima Blue, I am perfectly happy to go hungry for Netflix. No, I'm probably gonna start bumming another account off somebody, but who knows? Maybe this series will take off. Hopefully, but so yeah, that's my 2-part review of the Netflix series Birth, Death, Robots. I guess here's the call to action part. If you don't want to hear any of the sales pitch, get out of here. You're probably already subscribed anyway. But to those of you who aren't, give me a sub. Pass it around. Link my videos elsewhere. Please. this new internet economy has turned this into a viable future career, if a long shot. But this certainly makes sense as a tangential endeavor for my current career as a writer, because it gives me a more coherent internet presence and allows me to make my preferences known. I'm not reading this line. I'm just coming up with this in a very robotic manner for some reason. Maybe that's another tie with Zima Blue. Maybe we're all a little robotic, or maybe we're all just pool cleaners deep down. My first girlfriend was a pool cleaner, like the robot pool cleaner types. Yeah, there we go. I need more humor like that on this show. I'm just kind of meandering now. You can definitely go now. I already asked you to subscribe and maybe like and maybe leave a comment. Talk about it. I feel like I got into this in my goofy like starter vlog that like I'm not gonna be passing around anywhere, but I am gonna upload. I talked about how I think like part of the purpose or part of the goal of this is to sort of outsource this discussion, and to kind of turn it into a crowdsourced discussion. I don't want my word to be like the be all end all. Like I want to like hear like what you think about these things. Like I know that's like a kind of a canned statement that like a lot of people make, but I really do think like one of the goals and one of like the abilities that the internet has like kind of given to all of us is that we can have these sorts of like quasi conversations. Like I can talk for like 2 hours, and then you can write, like if you want to, like a small essay in the comment section, which like if like honestly, like I feel like I'm definitely, if I do decide to keep doing these sorts of vlogs, I do like comments that have like serious effort to them. I will probably flood the bottom of this page with like just highlighted pinned comments if it's a comment that like really I feel like engages and discusses like how these short films like might have affected you. And even like because I was like recommending a few of these, like if you liked these, like go like this, like with 3 Robots, like go read 9 Planets Without Intelligent Life. I'm gonna say that to the end of time because I love that webcomic and it was so good. And it's probably one of my favorite webcomics because it actually ended. It actually ended and had a coherent narrative and didn't stretch on for 10 million years. And so, yeah, so like if you think like one of these, if you know anything like Zima Blue, for the love of fuck, tell me what it is. Because I want to consume more media about artists that breaks them down, like literally physically breaks them down on that level. Because that was so fascinating that I would love to see, like, anything anyone tells me that's like, oh yeah, this is, like, Zima Blue has, shades of such and such. Yeah, there you go. You don't have to phrase it in such a pompous way, but yeah, definitely tell me if you find anything like Zima Blue or any of these really. Like I'd love to see more stuff like The Witness. If you're a game developer, please get to work. Get in touch with David Fincher and the other developers. I think the guy from like Burn Notice is involved in this, like production wise. Get in touch. Turn Ice Age into a game. Not that Ice Age. And yeah, that's my review. Like, favorite, subscribe, all that stuff. All that is just I don't know. I don't even have enough like views for ads yet. So I mean, I guess I could show my Patreon, but my Patreon's for my writing. But you know what? Screw it. I could probably multi-purpose. So maybe I should look into making another Patreon. But I mean, realistically, I'm probably not gonna like turn this into a financial thing because I do feel, I don't know. I'm gonna save talking about the experience of this for another vlog that I'll probably film never, but I might film in the future. But for now, I think I have talked enough about love, death, robots. Love, death, robots. I don't love death robots. It's love, death, robots. Okay. But yeah, go watch the series. Pass this around if someone's kind of iffy on the series and they don't think they want to watch it. I cast a spell on them. Boo. Bugaboo. Subscribe. 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 Okay. That's enough of that. That's enough. Goodbye.